My name is Brenda, and I'm a 35-year-old living with my mother in the same house where I grew up. I work at a mid-sized company, leading a fairly simple life while supporting my mother, who has gone through significant health challenges. My mother had undergone heart surgery 3 years ago. At one point, the doctors warned us that we should prepare for the worst. But my mother, with her tenacity, beat the odds and recovered. Now, despite taking lots of medications and visiting the hospital every couple of weeks for checkups, she lives a relatively healthy life, thanks in part to the daily exercises she commits to. Since her surgery, I have made it a point to stay by her side. It is the least I can do after everything she has done for me. Some may think it's odd for a woman my age to still live at home, but I find joy in spending time with my mother. We often go out on weekends, just the two of us. We try new cafes and enjoy delicious treats. It is these simple joys that give my life meaning. My father is another story. He works tirelessly managing his company, coming home late most days, too tired to do much more than relax in front of the TV with a beer. Even though he doesn't talk much, I can see the love he has for our family in the little things he does. However, lately, my father has been having more and more days when he doesn't feel well, and I can't help but worry. I also have an older brother, Philip, who is 2 years older than me. Unlike me, Philip has always been the reckless one. He attended an expensive private school and seemed to spend his college years doing everything but studying. Even as my father tried to bring him into the family business, Philip was always dismissive. "Why should I help out with your failing company? You chose this life, not me," he'd say. Worse yet, he often used company funds for his late-night outings, creating financial chaos that my parents did their best to shield me from. Despite my father's best efforts, his relationship with Philip was always strained. They clashed on almost everything, and it only got worse as my brother grew older. Even now, as a 37-year-old, Philip has barely managed to hold down a job, and to my parents' disappointment, he recently announced his engagement to his longtime girlfriend, Holly. She is 7 years younger than Philip, and from the little I know, she seems like a reflection of him, reckless and inconsiderate. Just a week ago, Philip called me. "Brenda, I'm bringing Holly over next week. It's for our engagement, so make sure the house is clean and ready. Tell Dad and Mom too," he said, his tone as condescending as ever. I was annoyed. "Why can't you tell them yourself, Philip?" I asked. But he brushed me off. Despite my irritation, I informed my parents. My mother sighed heavily, clearly dreading the upcoming visit. But my parents, ever hopeful, decided to welcome them properly, believing that perhaps marriage would finally make Philip mature. When the weekend arrived, Philip and Holly showed up. To say it was awkward would be an understatement. Holly walked in with a smug expression, her miniskirt and heavy makeup contrasting with the somber atmosphere of our living room. She greeted us with an attitude that made my skin crawl. My mother, always the gracious host, tried to make conversation. "Do you work somewhere, Holly?" she asked politely. Holly's reaction was immediate. She snapped, "Work? No, I don't work, nor do I plan to. I'm going to be a housewife, and I won't be helping with any of your family business nonsense." I was stunned. My mother was visibly hurt, and my father, though quiet, had a hardened expression. We endured the rest of the visit in uncomfortable silence, and as soon as they left, we all let out our frustrations. "What on earth was that?" my father muttered, his disappointment evident. "She acted like we were beneath her," I added, anger boiling inside me. That night, we decided to keep our distance from Philip and his future wife as much as possible. The visit had made one thing clear. Nothing had changed about my brother, and Holly seemed even worse. A few weeks later, Philip called me again. He had already registered the marriage and was now demanding a wedding gift. To avoid any issues later, I reluctantly gave him a generous amount. A few days after, Holly called to thank me, though it sounded more like she was mocking me. "Thanks for the money. I thought your dad's company was failing, so I wasn't expecting much," she laughed. I couldn't believe her audacity. I hung up, feeling both angry and sad at the disrespect they had shown my parents. Then, one morning, while preparing to take my mother to one of her regular hospital visits, our home phone rang. It was one of my father's employees, and his voice was trembling. "Brenda, something terrible has happened. Your father collapsed at work. He's being taken to the hospital now. My heart sank. I immediately informed my mother, and we rushed to the hospital in a taxi. Fear and anxiety gripped us as we prayed silently for my father's safety. When we reached the hospital, we were directed to the emergency department. A nurse led us to a room, and when I opened the door, there lay my father, already gone. The doctor explained that he had suffered an acute heart attack, and despite their best efforts, they couldn't save him. I stood there, unable to process what had happened. My mother broke down beside me, her sobs echoing in the sterile hospital room. I had informed Philip on our way to the hospital, but his response had been indifferent. I'm at work. I can't leave just because of some emergency. It's probably nothing serious, he'd said before hanging up. Even after I told him of our father's passing, he simply replied, "Well, I guess it was his time. Better this than him becoming a burden." I couldn't believe his callousness. My contempt for my brother grew tenfold in that moment. With my father's sudden passing, my mother and I had to take care of the funeral preparations. Amidst the grief, the thought of my father's company crossed my mind. What will happen to the company now? I wondered aloud. My mother pulled out a thick notebook. This is your father's manual for managing the business. He wanted you to take over if anything ever happened to him, she said, her eyes filled with both sadness and hope. I took the notebook, feeling the weight of responsibility settle on my shoulders. I'll do it, Mom. I'll try my best, I promised her. The funeral day arrived, and as expected, Philip and Holly showed up, but their behavior was appalling. Hey, Brenda, how long are you planning to mooch off our parents? Philip sneered during the wake. You're just a parasite living off Mom. As the eldest son, I'll take over the company. Pack your bags and get out, he said, his voice dripping with contempt. Holly, standing beside him, threw water from her glass in my face and laughed. I had never felt such rage before. They had insulted me, my mother, and my late father's memory. I decided then and there, I would cut ties with them, and I would not let this go. Fine, I'll leave, I said, feigning defeat. Philip and Holly seemed pleased, their eyes glinting with greed. Now Dad's company and the house will be ours, Philip said, loud enough for me to hear. Holly giggled. We'll be rich and I'll be the president's wife. Doesn't that sound wonderful? They were so blinded by their ambitions that they didn't even question why I was agreeing so easily. I packed my bags and left the house, but not before ensuring my mother was safe and understood the plan. I intended to keep my role as the next president of the company a secret until after the funeral. During the funeral, Philip pompously announced to my father's employees, "As the eldest son, I will be taking over the company. Please support me." His arrogance was unbearable, and I could see the discomfort among the employees. My mother sighed beside me, her face filled with disappointment. Philip and Holly truly believed they had won, but they had no idea what was coming. After the funeral, the real work began. My father's employees were loyal and had no intention of following Philip. When he tried to visit the company, they refused him entry, informing him that the new president was already decided. Me. The outrage in Philip's voice during his phone call to me was almost satisfying. "What did you do, Brenda?" "They told me you're the president. I quit my job because of this," he yelled, his voice frantic. "How could Dad leave his company to someone like you?" he demanded. I stayed calm. "Dad knew you only thought of yourself, Philip. And I know about your gambling debts. You were never fit to take over," I said. "What? How do you know about that?" he stammered, his bravado crumbling. I explained how, upon my father's advice, I had conducted a background check on Philip and discovered his massive debts. He had planned to use the company to pay off what he owed. It was despicable. Holly then took the phone, her voice shrill with anger. "Brenda, your brother is suffering. You have to help him. You're heartless," she screamed. I remained unfazed. "You created those debts. Deal with them yourselves. Don't contact me or Mom again," I replied before hanging up. Philip and Holly had banked on my father's money to solve all their problems, but they were out of luck. Without the company, they were left with nothing but their debts. The last I heard, they were both working at a factory, struggling to make ends meet. Divorce seemed imminent. It was poetic justice. They were finally facing the consequences of their selfish actions. As for me, I took over my father's company, and though it hasn't been easy, I am determined to make him proud. My mother has been my biggest support, and together, we are slowly rebuilding our lives. My brother and his wife are no longer a part of our lives, and I intend to keep it that way. They chose their path, and now they must live with the consequences. My father's legacy is safe with me, and I will do everything in my power to honor his memory and make the company thrive. The journey ahead is long, but I am ready. I have learned that strength comes not from brute force or arrogance, but from resilience and a sense of responsibility. My father taught me that, and now, as I sit in his old office, looking at the family photo on the desk, I know that I am exactly where I am meant to be. Philip and Holly's betrayal only strengthened my resolve. I am no longer just Brenda, the daughter living at home. I am Brenda, the president of my father's company, and I will make sure his hard work and dreams are preserved for the future.